Let's welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. These last couple of months have been very testing for us, but we hope that you're all as eagerly awaiting the start of the academic calendar and classes as eagerly as we are. You know of us as Great Learning. So over the last few years, we've been working with senior professionals for their upskilling. People who've been working for organizations, and as they progress through their careers, we've been providing them programs to upskill themselves and better in their careers. And in the process, what we did was build a tech platform, which is helping all of them learn remotely. And I guess that was the trigger for colleges to approach us and come to us and seek help in these testing times. And it also got us thinking that maybe we can put all our expertise to use, and like we benefit working professionals and organizations, perhaps it was time to extend it to colleges also. So last few weeks, Digital Campus was launched, and it's seen tremendous traction. We are frankly overwhelmed with the response that we are getting for Digital Campus. And we just thought maybe it's an opportunity for us to get a lot of you together and address a few queries and comments that have been coming our way in one go. So really, we are saving a lot of time by doing this, and thank you so much for joining us for this discussion. So Arjun, some of you may know him as the co-founder of Great Learning, also happens to be the chief architect of Digital Campus. And so it's my privilege to introduce him. And between the two of us, we'll try and over the next 1 hour, first give you a glimpse of what the Digital Campus solution is and how it can be used for your college. Number two, we've observed quite a few themes in questions and comments that have come to us. So we'd like to discuss those themes. Perhaps the responses to those themes help you firm up your decision on Olympus as the right choice for your college. And third, towards the end of the session, we will take some general comments and questions, which will come on chat. So please continue to introduce yourselves to us and keep posing questions, and we will take them on towards the end of the session. So having said that context, I'm just going to pass it over to you, Arjun, to talk about and give a glimpse of the Digital Campus to all our attendees today.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ritesh. Welcome again. I'm going to share my screen briefly. It says teaching online effectively using Olympus Digital Campus. So, we have a lot of ground to cover today. So we'll try to do that as efficiently as possible. We'll keep going back and forth from demo to actually talking about some of the aspects of effective online teaching to then questions. So we'll keep going back and forth. But very briefly, to get started, I finished my MBA from MIT Sloan about a little more than 10 years, and then have been in the education sector for the last nearly 6-7 years, working in technology and operations and product roles. So as Ritesh said, we've built this technology, Olympus Digital Campus, over the last 7 years. And although today we're talking about a product or using technology for effective online learning, we've actually been using that for the last 7 years to deliver our programs as well. So across with our university partners, which include Stanford University, UT Austin, Purdue, Great Lakes Institute of Management, of course, and this week we have signed a new collaboration with IIT Madras, which we are very excited about. The program is just launched as well. We have delivered over 22 million hours of learning to our students, and we have about 25,000 paid students who take these courses online, and another 300,000 plus free learners on our platform. About 1,500 faculty members have used this technology to deliver courses with excellent completion rates from over 80 different countries. So we know how to teach online, largely because that has been our primary business and primary operation over the last several years, and which is why we thought that a webinar like this would help our faculty members who are just about getting started to teaching online. This is exactly what we've been doing and delivering outcomes for thousands of students. And those experiences we'll share today, as well as also show you how you can do that using technology. How can you leverage technology to improve learning effectiveness? How can you leverage technology to create excellent outcomes for your students? With that said, we largely cover 6 different areas today. One is planning and delivering your online course. So some of you might be just about to do that as the new academic term is going to get started. We'll talk about using a structured learning environment to ensure that you're able to create an excellent experience for your participants. How do you do delivery? When you delivery, I mean teaching the content. How are you going to deliver that, or either online or in the class? Or either online or through recorded videos. And specifically around live teaching, what are some of the best practices, conducting assessments and planning them, and engaging your learners who are remote and tracking their progress. So this is what we'll cover today. And of course, we'll answer questions that you may have beyond this as well. I'll briefly talk about this. One of the things I want to point out right up front is most of you who've joined us are excellent teachers. So I don't want to at any point sound as if I know how to teach better than you do. I think all of you know how to do that far better than I do. What we will do, though, is talk about how can you get the maximum leverage for your expertise, which is in the class, and how do you leverage technology to have similar outcomes online. So that's what we are going to talk about today. Right? So we start with your usual pedagogical planning. This is exactly what you would do. Then you decide the number of live hours that you want to do. Now, I'll give you a few ideas here. When you do the live hours, they will actually be a lot less than what you physically do in the class. So we'll talk about that in a bit during the live session. Organizing and sharing your material in advance is going to be key, right? Unlike in the class where you may be able to do some of these on the fly and you can use your authority and all of that to establish credibility. And students will be okay with that. But in online learning, you have to share this in advance. And we've seen that happen with even some of our really high quality faculty members, whether they've come from an IIT or an IIM or a Stanford. You have to share your material in advance. In online learning, otherwise it becomes very difficult. Planning examinations is going to be key. Tracking student progress. Now, one of the things that's interesting, and it's a mindset, is that it's not just about high quality courses and content in online learning and when you're delivering outcomes. It really comes down to tracking student progress and engaging them when they're remote. In class, of course, when you are there, when you're engaging with them, you crack a joke, you call somebody out, you're able to engage them. But online, you're not able to do that. So you have to then use technology to understand which students are getting stuck, which students are engaging, who are moving forward, and provide a personalized experience for them. Providing guidance online, improving based on the feedback that you're getting. So again, this will be a mindset. In class, just looking at somebody sitting in front of you, you're able to figure out whether everybody is progressing or not, or who's actually getting stuck, who's enjoying the class, who's not. In online, how do you do that? So we'll talk about that. And in the end, there are, of course, regulatory requirements on how to create records, keep records. If you have to comply with some from some outcome-oriented systems, then you'll have to comply with those as well. So let's actually talk about a structured learning environment, and I'll illustrate this in a minute. So there's a lot here. So this is not a good slide, right? Let me say that up front, but I couldn't put it in any other way. So I'll actually show it to you, but these are the things that why you need to use a structured learning environment. In online learning, you have to give control to your faculty and students. The more you make things visible, the more people will not think of the limitations of technology. So I know this personally. My kids are actually going to school where they've got online learning. And the way that system is organized is extremely poor. So every night is extremely frustrating for me and my wife when we're trying to see how do you submit an assignment? How do you actually figure out what they studied today? And some of you might have experienced this if you've got kids or if you're just using this technology yourself. So using a structured learning environment, organizing material which in a certain way, creating the technology which is intuitive is extremely key to get the technology out of the way so that everyone can focus on the learning outcomes. Then there are a number of things around conducting live classes, sharing learning material, creating assessments, conducting group activities, communicating with faculty and peers, and joining discussion forums. And you have administrative things beyond that. And as much of the administrative things you can automate around grades, engagement, progress, scheduling all of these live sessions, collecting attendance, collecting the collecting grades, associating grades with attendance, allocating TAs and see whether they graded it properly, dealing with deferred dropped students, re-enrolling the failed students, keeping track of invoices, payments, and so on. So how do you automate all of this? So again, the idea here is to get technology out of the way so you can focus on the learning outcomes and experiences. So let me quickly now show you how you can use technology to create an environment for students to learn. So this is using our proprietary technology. Now you could use some other technology if you want, but here we'll just, to illustrate, that's what I will use, which is called Olympus Digital Campus. So when a student logs in, this is a very good way to represent courses. So they can see all the courses they are enrolled in, the courses that are active right now, the courses that are, let's say the student did not complete, and the courses that the students completed. So they can see all of that in one shot. Right now, secondly, if you want to go into a course, they can actually then go inside and see content organized in a certain manner. So this is, again, very important to give the structure and visibility to students. If you don't give that structure and visibility to students, as I said earlier, they will get lost and they will disengage. It will become a limitation as to why they're not learning. So important, put a course outline out there. Talk about what this course is going to cover. Organize the course material in such a way that they can see week by week what are they going to learn. What are the, if you're going to create recorded materials, then share that in a weekly manner. The data sets that you're going to use, put that in there. If you're going to do quizzes, show that in a weekly schedule. Week 2, week 3, week 4. Organize that in a week by week manner so that students know exactly what is coming up every week. So I talked about the course outline, and another best practice is to give a short introductory video talking about what are you going to teach in this course. So I'll just show you what something like that will look like. And it's very important to give this so that to excite students who are going to get started in a remote manner. A personal welcome from you as a faculty will go a long way, and they can do this.
Hello everyone. Welcome to this introductory course on machine learning. Before we get started with machine learning specifically, let's talk a little about data science in general. What the objectives are, how do we do it, and what are the challenges involved.
Right, so I won't play more, but basically connect with your students, talk to them as if they're right in front of you. And this is a mindset, again, faculty members have to get over, because you're used to talking them in the class, but here you'll have to talk to the laptop, but engage thinking as if they're right there. Good practices here, eye contact, look straight at them so that it almost looks as if you are talking to them, right? And so on. So organize material in such a way that it's easily accessible for them. Then the video recordings, once you're done, if you're doing live classes, so I'm sure you'll have a combination of recorded material as well as live classes. Organize that in an appropriate manner, right? Give a dashboard for the students so that they can very quickly get access to what they need to. For example, if there is a project, if there are some recordings of the sessions that they have attended, make it accessible for them. Assessments, grades, all of it should be intuitive right in front of them so that they can within a click access it and then get the material that they want. So it's about organizing things in a certain way so that students can then experience the great teaching that you're anyway able to do. So again, a lot of what we're talking about is not exactly how to teach, but mostly about leveraging technology to improve the effectiveness of the teaching. Right? So we'll talk more about some of these things about assessments in a bit, but a separate thing from here is about placement automation. A lot of students, of course, care about outcomes, and which is why they've come and joined an institution. So organizing material around resumes, interview questions that commonly come up, giving them an ability to schedule time with a mentor. So like a technology that gives them the ability to schedule one-on-one counseling sessions, and allowing them to apply for jobs. All of these things are actually going to go towards creating a great experience online for a student who is going to experience that for the first time. So let's actually continue with this session, and then we'll come back to this demo in a few minutes. Where did my session go? Okay. And then we'll pause and take questions. So there's definitely, that's going to be important as well. So in online delivery, and some of you know this, but I just want to put the basics out there first. There is live teaching, which is called synchronous learning, and use live teaching for engagement, discussions, creating small group experiences in cohorts. And many of you already know how to create breakout rooms, polls, and whiteboards. In fact, otherwise I would have done that here. In this technology which we're using in Zoom, within a button click, I can actually launch a poll, or I can create a whiteboard on which I can actually write. right? Or I can create a breakout room. Is, let's say there are, I'm just looking at the participant count, there are about 100 participants here right now. So I can, if I want to give you all a group activity, which you have to do in teams of 5, within one click, I can give you a group activity that, let's say I can create 20 teams and then have you do in groups of. These are all great ways to engage participants online. I'm not going to do that right now because I'm sure you know about it. Again, share material in advance, plan for about 75% of the time. Asynchronous content is recorded material. Use this for one-way information dissemination, right? So where you have, let's say, a theory or a concept that you're going to cover, use pictures and animations as much as possible. You break lectures into about 10 to 20 minutes and use hands-on examples when you do this. Typically, what we've seen is about, if you've got 10 hours of classroom teaching, that will translate to about 4 to 5 hours. And this is what I had talked about earlier. So if there is a 40-hour or a 60-hour class that you're teaching, and you may want to, that will actually that will be around only about 25 to 30 hours of actual recorded material. Rest of the time you can use for engaging discussions and so on online. It's a one-off effort, right? In general, for both, whether you're doing asynchronous or synchronous teaching, set an agenda up front, stick to it. Again, when you go back and forth in a class, you may be able to recover, but online you don't have that chance. You have that one instance. If you're not able to engage people, they will go, right? That's where, this has been asked many times to me, how do I know whether the student is there or not? To be honest, you don't know, right? But if you have set an agenda up front, it is engaging, they are likely to stay there. Keep all the slides, use quizzes and polls for engagement. That is one way to actually find out if they are there or not, right? You can give them a poll and then request them to answer that, right? Get comfortable with the software, do several rehearsals before you do this, and at the end, tie the whole material so that they can go away with an idea of what was covered. Now, in live teaching, there are 2 different approaches that you can take, right? One is a large class, and I know there is a bit difference here between 50 and 30, there is a gray area, so I'm pointing it out there. But if there is a large class, use a moderator or a TA, as we are doing today. So in this case, I'm delivering this lecture and Ritesh is the moderator, right? Use chat instead of voice. It's going to be complete confusion if all of you start asking questions at the same time. So which is why we've kept you all muted, right? Use the chat, we will use that. And for me, it's going to be distracting if I'm going to look at the chat. Turn the video off for the participants, for most participants. But in a small class, you do the exact opposite, because this you can make it engaging. Interact one-on-one with the student. Directly talk to them, right? Encourage students to speak up, ask questions. Ask them to keep their video on. So in small classes, do all of those. In large classes, use a TA and a moderator. And that actually goes a long way in making sure that there is a good classroom experience. Use, of course, whiteboard, breakout rooms, and polls for engagement. We talked about this earlier. I'm not going to illustrate this, but Zoom and some of these live conferencing tools will give you the capability to do that, right? Breakout rooms, as I talked about earlier, is a smaller way to do this. Let's talk about assessments quickly. Now, there are many different kinds of assessments that you can do, right? Assessments are, you can have grades for assessments, and we do this. That's one way to ensure compliance. You can have graded discussions. Now in class, especially if you're teaching a business program and some of the other programs also, you can have, there is class participation points, right? So you can have set up discussions and you can associate grades with those discussions, right? You can have MCQs, multiple choice questions, which are using question banks where you can randomize the questions from a question bank, provide correct answers and explanations, set the time when these results are available so the students, so they can learn on their own without you having to give them feedback for every single question. Assignments can be a file upload, and some of you are teaching engineering courses, so I know this. You may need to use, you may need to have somebody draw something on a paper, on an engineering drawing. You can ask them to take a picture of that and upload it, and you as a faculty can grade that, right? So you can have any kind of document upload, and you can have an assignment for it. Now you can do proctored exams, and these are more for, in those cases where you need to comply with regulatory requirements, where you can see whether the student is there, ensure the identity of the student, lock the browser so that there is no cheating involved, and so on. And of course, there are projects where you can have milestone-based grading. So a project can last, let's say, 2 months or 3 months, and there are interim steps. Maybe there's a summary, there is a interim report, there's a final report, there is a presentation. So you can have milestone-based grading across all of these, right? And you may have other components which are out of all of this, like labs and some extra work that you may need to do, and there is facility to create all of that in the in the software. So there are software that enables you to do it, but I'll again illustrate how you can use all of what I talked about using the software that which we have. There may be other things that you can do. I'll quickly show you how we can use using our software. Weekly engagement is key when students are remote, and that's one way to ensure that they're actually participating. So let's actually look at assessments, and then I'll wrap up. I don't want to talk too long, so let's actually quickly look at assessments. So this is a course on predictive modeling. So again, you put the assessments here, so you can have projects, practice exercises, quizzes, and so on. I'll just look at one aspect here, which is a project. So this is an example of a project where students have to predict customer churn. So for a telecom company, who is likely to churn? And there are various components to it. You have to do some data analysis, you have to build a model, you have to recommend some insights. And so there's a rubric according to which you are going to grade. So you can actually set up this rubric, and it's recommended that you set up, as a faculty, you set up a rubric. And you say that for all of these different things, EDA, checking outliers, checking for all of these different things, you're going to have points. So you set up a rubric in advance, and then you grade according to the rubric, and you give personalized feedback. So the system enables you to do that. So in this case, the student has gotten, let's say, a 4 on 4 for interpreting building the logistic regression correctly. He got 4 on 4. But for interpreting the logistic regression, he actually got 2 on 4 because he missed something out. And as a faculty, you can give that feedback, right? And there is a method for you to give feedback here. And at the end of it, of course, you can get a project grade based on the rubric according to which you've graded. Now, I'll show you something later on. But what's useful here is that in some of your classes, you may be the faculty and there may be a TA. So you can have a TA grade according to the rubric, and the system actually automatically checks to see whether the TA did a good job according to that rubric or not. And this is in our system. It may not be there everywhere, but it tells you whether the system did a good job to grade whether according to the rubric or not. And as a faculty, you can then decide to publish the grades or ask the TA to regrade it or allocate a different TA, for example, right? So that's something that you can do. Conducting hackathons. And of course, once the grades are available, you can see from a student's perspective, you can see how you did for all the courses, or you can see how you compared with the others. There could be leaderboards that you could set up where you can see where you stand with respect to all the others in the class. So I know we are going really fast, but I had to cover a lot of things. So with that, I'll just summarize quickly, and then I'll hand it off to Ritesh with this summary, which is that in online education, content by itself is not enough, right? Which is why large players like, let's say, a Coursera or a Udacity have not revolutionized higher education. And as great faculty, you know it. The content is one aspect to it. So, the live teaching that you do is one aspect to it. But the other aspects are, how are you tracking your learners? How are you finding out which student is falling behind? How are you able to give them the exact feedback that they need, the personalized attention, the feedback, so that they can overcome a certain learning breakdown that they've had? How are you going to engage with them when they're remote and make them motivated and sustain that motivation over a period of time? In a physical classroom, all of this happens, right? Because you're right in front of them, they are scared. You're overlooking, you're looking at what they're doing. They are in an atmosphere where they're working with other students, and there is peer learning, peer pressure, faculty pressure. All of these things come towards, in a physical environment, having outcomes. But you'll have to leverage technology online, which is why I said in the beginning when I started, as great faculty members, you may be able to create a great lecture, a fantastic live session. However, that may not be enough to create outcomes, because you'll need to then leverage technology to see how students are doing, track their progress, automate many of these things that otherwise will take your time, provide engagement and support and all of those pieces, right? With that, let me stop here, and then Ritesh, we can go through some of the things that you want to discuss.
Thank you very much for laying it out so clearly, Arjun. One of the things we are hearing from the market continuously is that there are a lot of conferencing solutions available to colleges, and so for conducting classes. And thank you for laying out the differences so clearly. Olympus is a conferencing solution, but it's so much more. It's an entire learning management system, which has got something for teachers, for students, for the administrators, and it just allows you to take the entire classroom online. So thank you for laying it out very well.
Yeah.
While you were talking, I also looked up at some of our stats because it's been about 2 or 3 weeks only since the launch.
Yeah.
And so I've been tracking the stats of interest from our partners quite closely. So about 400 plus colleges are very eager and discussing with us about digital campus today, which is quite encouraging for us. And if some of you amongst our audience are amongst those, then thank you for it. Our teams are right now doing at least about 6 to 7 demos every day for colleges. And I'm told there are several hundred MOUs that are in the pipeline for being signed, where colleges are going to start using this. I guess it's just a testament of the work that's gone into develop Olympus. And I think colleges are now seeing the difference specifically against, regular conferencing solutions that are available. So thank you to the audience for some of those encouraging comments and interest in Olympus. I'd just like to shift gears now, Arjun, and talk about some key questions which we've noticed as we speak to partners over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
There are some 5 key themes that I've observed. There are some comments and there are some questions. Now, comments are very clearly about the convenience and speed at which classrooms can be set up. There are some comments about great feature sets compared to other conferencing solutions. There is an interesting one which is about how people are seeing the Olympus as a service solution and not just a product, which means that, as Great Learning is helping colleges in basically conducting these classes. So that's an interesting one for me. There are some comments where colleges are now seeing this as a very positive business case to digitize their business and basically create more revenue streams. So that's an interesting one as well. Now, diving into questions that are there, which are equally interesting, and I think for our faculty members, these could be templates of their discussions probably with their vice chancellors or trustees. So I'll dive straight into the questions. And perhaps the most talked about is from faculty members as to how do they go about scheduling classes, how do they go about uploading content on the platform, how do they go about delivering classes, and how easy it is for them to do this on their own. So if you could just spend some time talking about that.
Sure. Sounds good. So let's actually go back to the screen share. So, one of the things that you did ask is how can you quickly do this, right? So let me actually show you from the back end, right? How can you do some of these things? So one of the things is that there is a scheduler, right? Again, this is more related to our software, but I think you'll need to see which other software. If you're exploring other things, you'll have to see how will you get some of these things. But one is about scheduling. So within a few, you can actually schedule the entire academic calendar in advance. And this is why this is what we do. We schedule the entire calendar in advance, set up the sessions, pick what kind of a session it is, the audience, whether it's for a group or an individual or a batch, how long it is, and then you just keep on setting it up. So basically you schedule each session one by one, and there is no need for you to then take a link and put it somewhere, give it to the faculty, to the student, track attendance automatically. All of that is automatically taken care of, right? So you saw in the dashboard, in the student dashboard that I shared with you earlier. In a second, wait, let me see if I can show you the dashboard again. So in the student dashboard, you saw this earlier, right? So there is a place where you can actually log into these sessions very, very easily, right? So once you schedule it here in the back end, you schedule it all in advance. The student just gets the link automatically here for all the sessions that are coming up. Once the session is over, the recording automatically comes here. The attendance is captured here. The faculty's feedback is automatically captured. The faculty can go back and then take a look at the feedback. All of that is automatically done, right? So otherwise, it will be quite painful. So I have seen faculty members doing exactly this. Scheduling a Zoom session, putting it all into an Excel, then sharing it, doing a survey to collect feedback, trying to download it and analyze it. That's all painful. I mean, you can do it that way, but it just doesn't work very well in scale, right? And scale meaning, like, let's say you have to do, if you've got like 3,000, 4,000 students and you might be running 100 parallel classes, 6-7 hours a day. So if you're doing 500-600 hours, getting feedback across all of that, scheduling all of this could be painful. The same thing you can do with assessments. You can schedule it and just release it. It'll automatically happen. And once the session is over, you can look at feedback like this. So this is what I was talking about earlier. One click, you can see the feedback, right? Another thing that around engagement, again, automation, this is what happens. So we integrate with WhatsApp. So once sessions are over, once milestones are over and students achieve a certain milestone, the system then recommends the student to complete an assignment if they did not, call out the students who did a good job. All of these creates that peer pressure, peer collaboration atmosphere that is actually otherwise present in the physical class. We try to replicate that, right? So those are some of the things that you can do. And then I think you have a question around reporting also, right? So let me actually talk about that as well. So reporting is very important, especially when you're doing online, and as much as you can automate it, you should. So in our case, we have a dashboard that allows us to see which student is falling behind, which student has given a poor rating, which student is not coming to class, what does their attendance look like, what kind of ratings have they given for each of those sessions, how many of the videos have they watched, how long have they watched the videos, if there are other learning material that you've shared here, including assessments, practice exercises, learning content, how much have they watched. So you can see all of that, and our system automatically comes up with an analysis as to whether you are going to drop off, you're at risk, or you're on track. With the highlight here, we're saying yellow, or yellow means that you're at risk, and red means that you're in trouble, right? Otherwise, these students are doing well. So again, automating these things are key, and that's one of the things that we've done. Otherwise, at scale, this becomes hard. Grades, we talked about that. This is the platform that enables you to actually allocate TAs and automatically grade whether the TA has done a good job or not. So the system tells you if the TA has given good feedback, and star 2 means that the TA did not do a good feedback, or star 5 means that the TA actually gave good feedback. And then as a faculty, as we talked about earlier, you can take a decision to publish those rates or not. So those are again some of the ways in which you can actually automate this and make it easier for a faculty to execute classes. And similarly, you can track attendance. All of those features are there. So that sort of summarizes what Ritesh you had in mind.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And most of this is going to be self-serve, Arjun?
Yeah. So this is all self-serve. Faculty or an admin or a TA can have based on their access. So they'll have access rights. And based on that, they can decide what part of it they can access rather.
Yeah, this is quite easy for them to manage on their own. But there is a follow-up question to this.
Yeah.
For the first time, for the first class, for the first experience, how can Great Learning help faculty members get accustomed to Olympus?
Yeah, so we actually do, like we're doing right now. So this is not really so much around a product training. This is more about just how we are leveraging, Olympus Digital Campus to conduct our programs. However, as a university or a college, if you want to use this, then we will spend time setting this up for you. In terms of training you, in terms of providing guidance for your faculty members, or if there are TAs, then for them. Creating the accounts, a lot of those things actually you can do on your own, but the first time we'll help you get started, and then we are of course available, right? See, our mission is to have an impact in higher education as much as we can. I think all of us are living through a unique time in history. We are living through a time where we look back and then wonder what just happened in this last 3 to 6 months, where technology completely took over higher education. From as an entrepreneur, I want to be a part of it and then help our colleges and universities go through this transition, which is why we are doing this. And I think we can have impact. This technology that we are talking about, there was no use case for this, and that's what I tell my faculty members when I talk to them. There was no use case for this 6 months back, right? Only a business like ours, which was doing online learning, needed it. But suddenly now every institution in the country requires it. Right, so we are doing everything that we can to help equip universities and colleges to get started, to leverage technology, to have outcomes. We can't solve the problems ourselves. So I think our colleges and institutions have that reach and are engaging millions of students. So using the technology to create outcomes online is something that we are very passionate about, and we want to help universities and colleges do that.
Another related question, which is interesting, is about the model of Olympus. Now, some of the partners are saying that, they've been approached by technology companies, and these companies plan to set up servers in their college, and, they want them to buy licenses for services and AMCs and so on and so forth. So I guess the direct question is, if I need to take my classes online, do I really need to build like a massive technology team to support this? Do I need to invest capex in buying some servers, or do I need to spend money one time buying licenses, etc.? Or is there a smarter and a leaner model to do this?
Yeah. See, I think that's a great question, right? I think, and we'll have to think of how technology is sold today, right? And the world has moved to a way, in fact, when some of the classes that I teach, I actually talk about the subscription model, right? In fact, many large companies are doing exactly the same thing. They've moved to a model which is around subscription, which enables companies to bring their costs down and make it accessible. And which is exactly how we are offering this technology as well. It's a subscription. You subscribe for it monthly. If you like it, if it's actually working for you, then you continue with it. If it's not, hopefully we'll try our best to make it work for you. So that will keep us on a short lease as well. And if it doesn't work for you, you can just stop, right? You can switch it off. So all parties, it benefits, because as a provider, then we are trying our best to make sure that we have the best product out there. And as a consumer, then you have that control with you. So we are offering our product as a service. You pay a certain amount monthly for it, and provided you are happy, you can continue using it. Now, the second aspect of it is, should you get hardware licenses, all of that? See, it's again fairly outdated thinking. Now it's far superior to keep these things on the cloud. People are worried about security, but I think, things like Amazon, which is what we use, AWS, HLS, there are lots of secure systems that are available, and it's much more secure to be there rather than, in a hardware system that is set up in your office, where, there is a single instance. If something falls on it, it stops working, all your data is gone, or you have to manually take backups, and you have to set it up in a different way. So, Amazon, all of these things are taken care of. We work with online cloud providers for doing those things. So we largely leverage cloud technologies to do this, and that's what is being built into the system. And what we've actually built is an abstraction. You can argue that all of these things you can do on your own, and if you have the technology and if you have the capability to do it, I think some of you may. But largely, that's what we've done. We've built the application layer to make this really, really simple and easy and make it accessible for people to use.
No, thank you very much. Just to add to what you said, Arjun, I think this is about collectively leveraging years and years of experience that large companies like Amazon and, let's say, Zoom and other conferencing platforms, plus a lot of content companies, plus education companies like us, have put together to create this product that works seamlessly very well.
Yeah.
And creating this is a pain. I mean, there is years of testing that's required, and integration with complex systems, etc. So yeah, I mean, leveraging this is much in tune with the times, rather than setting up your own infrastructure and support teams.
And as you said, right, we took 7 years to get to this, right? It actually, and we've been very aggressively building it, right? It's not easy, all the different dashboards and features that need to get built to automate workflow and make it intuitive, right? You can slap something together fairly quickly, but ultimately, as we talked about, it's about the intuitive platform. The example that I talked about with my kids, there are other solutions out there, but it's going to be a painful process, and you're so frustrated. At the end of the day, it takes 2 hours as a parent to submit an assignment. It's really frustrating, but my kids' school uses that. I've been asking them to use Olympus, but they've not done it so far. But that's the process, right? And at some point, if it gets so frustrating, and if this lasts for longer, then I'm going to just pull them out of that, right? Because I don't want to go through this pain of daily spending 2 hours trying to submit an assignment, or for my son to figure out which class to join. My daughter went into a class yesterday, and then the teacher told her, this is the wrong class for you. Right? So you just joined a grade 1 class, but you're supposed to be in KG. And I can't figure out which is the KG class. I spent so much time trying to figure out, and my son came and told me that, press this button. Right? So, this is not how software should work. And there are, I'm not going to name which company it is, but it's a large blue chip company who's selling the software, which is built for video conferencing. And that's what they're using for this. And that's what happens. If it's exactly what happens if you click a few, if you slap video conferencing software and then, you're using documents to submit assignments. And that's why it's so frustrating. I have to, create an assignment, copy a picture and insert a picture into a Word document, upload the Word document. I mean, it is silly. And the teacher has to download it on Excel, grade it, and upload the grades. I mean, if you're going to do this for 1 week, it's fine. But now it's already lasted 3 months, and it could last another 1 year. Right? Yes. So then this is not fun anymore.
No, this is the right cue for a very interesting question, which is a very direct question as well. Which is about how does the product stack up against competition? Now, like I said, several companies are approaching colleges today, and all of them are talking about their feature sets. So do you want to just spend quick 2 or 3 minutes, Arjun, on how Olympus stacks up against some of the competitive products in the market?
Yeah. So I'll just share that, but I'm not going to actually, again, go into like one-on-one comparison, because I don't think that's worth any of our time. But, largely let's break it down like this, right? There is just, there are products which are around video conferencing, which is things like Zoom and Zoom, largely GoToMeeting. There are things which are around LMS, which is Moodle, Canvas, edX. There are things which are around, classroom workflow automation, which I think Teams is doing to some extent and Google Classroom is doing to some extent. But none of them have really been built for what we are talking about, delivering online education, right? Nothing has been built for that, which is what we've built. So again, now breaking it down, what are the things that you need to do? You need to conduct online classes. And when I talk about online classes, these have to be password protected. You don't want random people coming into your class. You need essentials of teaching, which are things like, breakout rooms and whiteboards and things like that. You need to be able to share these sessions automatically. So you don't want to manually do these things. You need to capture attendance for them. You need to capture faculty feedback. All of this has to be done automatically, error-proof. And as I showed you, the timetable that lets you do the whole thing within a few clicks, make it really simple. See, the pain comes only if you're doing hundreds of sessions every hour, every hour literally, right? And every day of the week. So you need to be able to do these things, right? Unlimited or large numbers of live sessions to be able to store them. So these are around live classes. Then you need features around assessments. Make assessments possible, MCQs, all the things that we talked about, do proctored exams, evaluate them, conduct hackathons, provide grades across courses, provide peer learning. If you have to do labs, using Java, SQL, programming, etc., things like that, right? So if you look at the first two, the live classes, things like GoTo and Zoom and all will let you do it, but it just doesn't let you do any of the other things around assessments and things like that. So you'll need to use a different software. Or if you think of Canvas, Moodle, and you look at LMS, that doesn't let you do live teaching, right? Then you can look at other LMS like the student feedback, the student dashboard and the faculty dashboard. I have not shown you the faculty dashboard. If you have some time at the end and if there is interest, I can show what that looks like. So you need to have the ability to edit, create lecture videos, publish them. So again, you're not going to get any of that in the platforms that are out there, right? Structuring courses, discussion forums, that you will get in Canvas and Moodle. In Canvas and Moodle, but many of the other things that you won't get. The advanced student engagement features that we talked about, WhatsApp integration, the tracking each student's assessment submission, at that level, at a quick view, you're not going to get that, right? So identifying at-risk students automatically, inviting external. So we're not going to go into details, but nothing is there. These are the things that we had to build over 6-7 years. Otherwise, we also wouldn't want to build any of these things. But because we had to deliver all those hours of online learning over the last 6-7 years, and we had to deliver high quality learning, as we talked about earlier, where our benchmarks are 4.5 on 5 for feedback, right? If we don't get that, we are not happy. It's not that every session goes like that, but we are able to identify which session did not go well and we are able to then take action. So on average, we do about across all these 25 million hours of learning delivered, we would have a faculty feedback of 4.6. Again, because the technology gives you the visibility, program feedback would be about, again, 80-90% of our students would be extremely satisfied. And the reason is we have the ability to identify which student you need to provide that intervention for, provide that support for. So those are the things that the engagement dashboard that you saw earlier would do. Then you need things around placement automation. So I talked about that, right? So we need the repository to share material, do interview questions, scheduler, counseling, placement process automation for a placement officer to go look and shortlist CV, send it to a company, receive feedback, give it to the students, all of those things, right? So basically all the things that would require you to take your physical learning online, we've built. We had to build it. And suddenly there is a use case for that product. It's not like we built this in the last 3 months, right? None of this we built in the last 3 months. In fact, we've done nothing in the last 3 months to build it other than do these webinars and series. All of this has been built over the last 7 years. And that is the difference from, let's say, some of these products that would come up and who are trying to leverage, because nobody would have built it. There was no reason, there was no customer to sell this to 3 months ago or 4 months ago. Suddenly there is a customer. And that's why I think this is a mature product, a mature software that is out there. The last thing I'll talk about is because we are also offering courses, we have a large repository of online courses, right? And we can share that. So, that's the other piece, which is aside from all of this, which we can make available in various forms. It could be just free courses, which are short courses, or it could be longer duration industry electives, or it could even be specializations where we can help you run a specialization.
Yeah. Thank you. And this product comparison chart can be made available to people because there are quite a few requests coming for this product comparison chart. So
yeah.
This is something that we can share? Okay.
Yes, we can share it.
Okay, great. Fantastic. So I'm switching gears a bit, Arjun, now to a question which seems to be on the minds of people who made up their mind, made up the decision of going with Olympus as a choice. But the question they ask is this a product that's going to take care of my temporary requirement during the lockdown situation where my students can't travel? Or is this something that sticks with me for the long term and helps my business over the next 4, 5, 10 years? So I guess this is a business case question on how they have to look at the solution. So if you can shed some light on that, I think it will be interesting for the audience.
Yeah, so I'll actually think of this from two sides, right? One is, I don't know if this is a short-term solution, right? I mean, every city that we are thinking about in India is having some kind of lockdown. I don't expect these things to change in the next 3 months. And I think, some of you as faculty members and HODs and principals, you'll know it better, right? But very unlikely, right? At least till the end of this term, likely till the end of the calendar year, and, it may be longer. So it's not, even from that perspective, I don't think it's a short-term solution. Number two is the part around, what else can you do, right? So I think there are many other interesting ideas on how you can leverage the software for conducting, let's say, you want to do executive programs. You can absolutely do it for executive programs, right? You don't need to just do it for the full-time students that you currently have. And that's the magic of online, right? You have so long as you have good faculty members, you have good courses, and you've got something unique to offer, you can leverage the technology to reach a larger audience beyond your current students. And as faculty and those of you who are interested in doing that can absolutely use it and create a new revenue stream and create a new revenue opportunity for your colleges and universities beyond looking at it more as a software that you need to plug in for your current needs. And then I think the last interesting piece is now, with all the things that the government is doing with opening up online education and online degree programs, then it's anybody's game. I really don't. Now they've said top NIRF ranked universities, and maybe that's the first move, but I don't know how this is going to look, let's say, a year or two down the line, right? It may be that there would be, that's what this has done, right? It's accelerated the adoption of technology, and those of you each of the colleges and universities are able to leverage it fully, will get a head start. So I do think that there is a very strong business case to be made about understanding how to use technology for high quality online education. See, there is going to be lots of poor quality online education without a doubt. In the beginning, maybe it'll be a crowded space. Everybody will offer an online degree program. And maybe for the next 3 months, 6 months, it is going to be tough competition because there's going to be tons of online programs. But I do think that after the noise settles, it is like in other areas, there is going to be some evening out, and those which are the high quality providers will survive. Similarly to what has happened with e-commerce and other places, those who are able to provide a better quality service will be the ones who will take a large share. So you'll need to use technology. I don't think there is an option to not do it.
Yeah, there's a very interesting comment that's come through while you were talking, and this comment is quite heartening. I mean, it says that we are seeing this solution more as a transformational solution rather than a one-time fix. So it's a short comment, but I think a very apt one. There is a question which is actually quite a few people are asking this question, which is about if they want to get started with Olympus, how can they experience it? How can they get in touch with us? Is there a free product for a pilot? Can we help them organize a sample class? So how do we get it going, Arjun?
So please write to us at digitalcampus@greatlearning.in. Please send an email, digitalcampus@greatlearning.in, and we'll get you started. In fact, you can call us also. I'll just type in the number here in a second. Yeah, so please call us at this number or write to us. Either one of those two things will work.
There is a question which is about some attendees who are saying, I'm not a faculty member, but I'm a coach and I desperately need a solution like this. Can I be onboarded and can I start using it?
Likely you can. Yes, you can. I mean, my answer is yes, you can, but it depends a bit on what your use case is. The answer is please write to us. I wouldn't want to pick that exactly. See, it's built for colleges and universities, but I think as an individual faculty member, you should be able to use it as well. So do write to us.
Do you prefer Zoom as the underlying technology, or are you likely to switch platforms? And is this platform agnostic?
Yeah, so I don't know if you caught it in the demo that I showed you earlier. There is a checkbox that allows you to use the technology that you want. So as part of the Olympus Digital Campus licenses, we give you licenses to a few of them, which is basically Zoom and Adobe. Sorry, not Adobe. GoTo. Is it Adobe? One of these two. So we give you license to a couple of different video conferencing software, which we think is actually useful and can work in the online mode. So you can, that's part of the license. You don't have to separately pay for Zoom or, Zoom or any other conferencing tool. We are using that in the backend because many of the features that we talked about, Zoom is very good, right? Breakout rooms, polls, whiteboards, automatically changing the compression based on the bandwidth that is available at the student's end and the faculty end. Keeping multiple video streams open and then changing bandwidth constraints according to that. So Zoom has built a lot of technology for this. Again, don't believe some small company that will come and tell you that we'll be able to do all of this. They will be, but it's likely going to be extremely poor, right? Which is why even with we have a large tech team, but even then we are using Zoom as a backend because it's actually the best that is out there. At some point, if there are issues, then we may use something else. In Zoom, for example, doesn't work in certain countries, which is why we have other technology that we integrate with. There may be government regulations around not using Zoom, and for some colleges in some states. Again, for that we have another technology that I forget now whether it's Adobe or GoTo. It's one of these two that we also integrate with. And we give you licenses to that as well. So depending on the scenario, you can actually use one of these.
Yeah, I think it's also about not just about any technology, but it's also about stress testing. So we have experience of this integrated version working with more than 150,000 students, and like you said, some 22 million or 25 million plus hours of learning that's been delivered through this. So it's a lot of this is about, as thousands of students start logging into this, this is about the stress managing capability or the load balancing capability of the integrated ecosystem and how well that is able to handle the traffic. So thank you for addressing that question. I guess we'll take just one final question. And this is an interesting one. We'll close on this, Arjun. In your experience, what are the common factors in classes which you would rate as successfully conducted online classes? What are the critical things that come together to make an online class successful?
Okay, that's a great question. See, number one, which is needed is that you need to be a good teacher, right? So, I think that is a necessary condition. Not sufficient, but it is a necessary condition. You have to be a great teacher, right? And many of you are. Many of, as faculty members, you are great teachers. So what you can use technology for is ensuring that whatever you did in the class actually translates to online, right? So that's number one. Number two is preparation, right? Keep everything ready, keep everything organized, right? It has to be all done up front. Don't try to wing this in the last, like for example, use a whiteboard, right? As a faculty member, you may be right now used to just going on the whiteboard and start writing. When you're delivering an online class, that won't work. You should have already kept that formula ready. You should have already kept the image that you want to draw ready. Just cut and paste, and that is what it is. Because you don't have the attention span that you get in the classroom, the ability to engage. It's the fact that you're walking around, doing things with their hands, all of that people will forgive in the class. But online, people don't. They just want things boom, boom, boom. So you have to keep everything ready. Everything has to be organized. Share all the material in advance, right? As much as possible, don't try to share things on, which is why using the LMS that I talked about earlier is important. Keep material there, right? So tell students if you have to work on a data set or something on the fly, tell them to go and get it from there, as opposed to you trying to share it while you're conducting the session, right? Very bad idea. Because what happens is when you try to do that, there might be some technology issue, there might be some issue with bandwidth and so on, right? All of those things will hamper in the experience of a good class. In some of the ratings that we've gotten, students sometimes give a faculty rating of 3, right? And if you talk about why did the faculty get like our really high quality faculty, like 2 weeks back, we had one of our best faculty members getting a rating of 3. Now, why did he get that rating of 3? Apparently, the student had poor internet connection. Now, why should a faculty, and that faculty was really annoyed. He called me up and he said that I got a rating of 3, but it's not my fault. But that is the lay of the land, right? The fact is that when you're doing this, you have to share this in advance as much as possible. You cannot, there are things that you can control, there are things that you cannot control. The internet at the student's end, fluctuations in the internet are things that you cannot control. What you can do is you can be planned, share all of these things in advance. So that's a number 3 thing. Number 4 is engagement, right? Engagement is crucial. In the class, great faculty members know this. It's all about, 30-40% is about what you're teaching. The rest of it is all the theoretics that you do, right? The jokes that you're cracking, the person that you're calling out. People sometimes talk in different ways. You do something to engage them in the class. Suddenly, I've seen great faculty members, when they start teaching online, they become conscious. They don't do those things. But those are key, right? Engagement is key. It's not just about, delivering content. You have to engage them. So how do you engage them? You engage them by doing exactly the same things. You crack a joke. You cover that you tie that to something else. People have this habit of drifting off after about 10 minutes. So you have to bring them back by cracking a joke. You can do things like polls. We talked about polls every 10-15 minutes. Ideally, I should have done that. I've not done that here, but you should do polls. I thought about doing this. My team actually dissuaded me from doing it. I was going to ask a poll, was the session useful? They dissuaded me by saying, what if they say no? So, so things like that, right? So it's a good idea to do polls. It's a good way. I mean, that's a dumb example, but, doing a poll to get somebody back in will get them to engage. Now they have to take an action. When they take an action, again, their brain kind of stops with that frozen state that it was earlier, and then comes back to engaging with the content that you're teaching. Do a quiz in between, right? Play a video. So that engagement piece is very, very crucial, right? And polls is one way to engage. The other way to engage is using breakout rooms that we talked about earlier. If you've got 50 students, give them an activity. Ask them to discuss something. Create them into breakout groups of 5. Ask them to discuss something for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Bring them back, right? And then bring them back and then you summarize all of those things, right? So these are all little tricks that you can do. One of the things I do personally, the way I like to teach, and I've not done that in this session again, but one of the things that I love to do is I actually get people to chat with me while I'm teaching this session. So I'll ask a question, what do you think of this? And then I'm reading through the chat, right? So if there are 40, 50 students and I cannot like engage them one-on-one, and sometimes when I do these webinars, these classes, I have like 200 people there. So I'll ask them, what do you think, which is a better company, right? Big Basket or whatever. So ask them to type. And when they're typing, I'll pick a few things and talk about it, right? So you have to get used to this technology, which is very important. That's what I said, rehearse earlier. So if you're able to get people to type, read off of that and summarize this and talk to someone at the same time, you're again creating engagement. Engagement is key. If you don't engage somebody during a live class, you will lose them. And the other key is, in a live class, don't try to teach. So this is a bigger step away. And I don't know if a lot of faculty will do this, but don't try to actually, if you want to explain calculus, don't use the live class to actually explain theory, right? That is far better to do it as a recorded video. It's far better because there are some students who will actually get it very quickly. There are some students who are going to get it slowly. The students who get it quickly are going to be really frustrated if the students who get it slowly are asking you questions. Can you explain this again? Can you explain? So the guy who's gotten it quickly will then get up and leave, right? And in the class, they can't. They have to sit there. In a physical classroom, nobody will get up and leave from your class. But here, you don't know. What if they get up and leave, right? So don't, as much as possible, don't try to teach theory online. Create a recorded video, put it up. And when you come, this is a flipped classroom approach, right? This is the ideal scenario. We do this all the time. Give recorded material upfront where there is theory, concepts, put it all into recorded material. In the actual physical, in the live session, you ask them, you pick exactly as you would do in the class. Did you watch the video? What did you see in it? What did you learn? Right? So create the live session should be about engaging, asking questions, interaction, peer discussions, and so on. Do all that in the live session, right? And then put all the boring stuff, the concepts, the theory into the video, but they have to do that to come to the live session. The live session, and if somebody comes showing up without actually going through the video, call them out and tell them the reason why you're not following is because you've not watched the video, right? In fact, it's even better to do it before, right? The day before in the system, you can track whether they have watched the video or not and tell them that, you've not watched the video. Tomorrow, you're going to do a terrible job in my live session. So go watch the video and come, right? So those are the things that you can do to make sure that your sessions actually go very well. And there's a lot I just said right now, but it comes from experience. And if you're able to do that, then you'll be able to, create a really high quality, engaging online experience.
Well, thank you. And, recently I was talking to one of the vice chancellors of one of the largest colleges in the country. And he asked me a very direct question. He said, I have a lot of great teachers, but my belief is not all theater artists make great movie stars.
Yes.
So, how do they make the transition to online? And my response to him was, well, if they have to be in a movie, then you've got to give them the tools of a movie, right? Yeah. So use Olympus Digital Campus and help them become movie stars. And then we take it from there. So I think we've overshot the time. We've had a lot of questions. We try to answer as many as we can. So in case your questions are left, apologies from our side, please shoot them over to us. You have our email ID and the phone number to reach out to us, and we'll be very happy to engage with you. Thank you very much for your time, all. Arjun, thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much for attending. Have a good rest of the day. Hope the session was useful. Do send your feedback. I also love to get feedback, so do send it if you found it useful or not. In both cases, I'd love to know. So do let me know. Thank you very much for your time.